कूजन्तं राम रामेति मधुरं मधुराक्षरम् आरुह्य कविताशाखां वन्दे वाल्मीकि कोकिलम्। रामाय रामभद्राय रामचन्द्राय वेधसे रघुनाथाय नाथाय सीताया पतये नमः। जयत्याश्रितसन्त्रास ध्वान्तविध्वंसनोदयः प्रभावान् सीतया देव्या परमव्योमभास्करः परमव्योमभास्करः।
श्रीमते निगमान्त महादेशिकाय नमः. We have witnessed the events that took place in Sri Rama and Sita's life post the Pattabhishekam. While they were leading a very simple and a very happy life, Sita was pregnant after 2 years. That is when we have observed that she expressed her interest to be amidst the rishis. Rama agreed to fulfill her wish. While this happened on one side, the hearsay that some of the citizens spoke, a group of citizens spoke, was communicated to Rama by the spy Bhadra. Rama was very upset listening to the views of some of the people. Of course, in the urge to keep his nation above his personal interests, he then asked Lakshmana to abandon Sita in the middle of the forest. Every time, as a speaker, when I mention this incident, there is a gush of emotion that chokes up my throat. Nevertheless, we need to live with the reality of the happenings in our itihasa too. The pregnant Sita was banished in the middle of the forest by Lakshmana. She was escorted to the hermitage of Valmiki Maharshi. Valmiki then said, "You are under my guardianship now. I shall guard you like a brother guards his sister." From that time onwards, the entire gestation period Sita had to spend in the hermitage of Maharishi Valmiki. Valmiki at this point in time was a bit confused. He thought, is the same person whom we have all revered as Sri Ramachandra has done this particular act which is not even worth mentioning, which is to abandon the pregnant Sita, his wife, in the middle of the forest? I am not able to take it. While he was confused and wanted to understand if there is one human being on earth who could be the fulcrum or the repository of all 16 auspicious attributes, that is when Narada Maharshi came and said, to your question of the 16 auspicious attributes, Valmiki, it is only Rama who can suffice all these attributes. With little confusion in his mind, Valmiki, along with his Sishya Bharadwaja, goes to the forest. That is when he observes one of the birds being separated from its counterpart. When this separation happens, Valmiki Maharshi has a gush of emotion. He is choked in melancholy. This shokam turns into a shlokam. Shokaha shlokatvam agataha. He says, Ma nishadayat pratishthantvam magamasshashvati samaha yat krauncha mituradekam avadhihi kamamohitam. Upon understanding that what he has uttered is a curse, but also the curse was in the form of a certain meter called Anushtup, which aligns to the rules of poetry. He goes back confused to his hermitage. That is when he spots Brahmadeva seated in the ashrama. Brahma advises Valmiki Maharshi that what he had uttered was not a curse but a blessing. He says that he has been ordained to write the life history of Sri Ramachandra. That is when Narada, upon Narada's insistence, Valmiki asks Brahmadeva, all the incidents have already taken place in Rama's life. Rama is now 41. How will I know what had really happened? Rahasyam cha prakasham cha yadvrittam tasya dhimataha tachapya viditam sarvam viditam te bhavishyati nate vaganrita kavye kachidatra bhavishyati. Anrita, in your kavyam there will be not a single piece, single place where untruth, falsehood is found, Valmiki. Rahasyam cha prakasham cha. All those incidents which are in the public domain of what happened in Rama's life, and those which are private, may be known only to him or Sita, will also be seen by you in your palm. Rahasyam cha prakasham cha. Hey Valmiki, this biography that you are going to write of Sri Ramachandra will become a mukhya pramanam, says Brahma, and leaves the place. Now Narada Maharshi and Valmiki. Now we may have a doubt. Where does Narada come here? Narada was always there to bless Valmiki Maharshi. He was the one who was instrumental in converting a Ratnakara into a Valmiki Maharshi. He was the one who came on his own accord to answer the questions posed by Valmiki Maharshi. So Valmiki sat on the Darbha grass, Narada sat on the Acharya Peetham, and Valmiki started writing Srimad Ramayanam. In the course of writing Srimad Ramayanam, he describes Kosala, its king. Kosalo nama muditaha, sphito janapado mahan. It was one of the major Janapadas. Even historians will agree. Later, when the Janapada of the Buddhist regime of Ashoka is described, there are many Janapadas mentioned. Of them, Kosala is also an important Janapada. Sphito Janapado Mahan, Nivishta Sarayu Tire, Prabhuta Dhana Dhanyavan. It was filled with Dhanam and Dhanyam. Ayodhya Namanagari, Tatrasil Loka Vishruta. It was very famous throughout the world. Manuna Manavendrena Yapuri Nirmita Swayam, says Valmiki. Manuna. Manu is the supervisor who has been commanded by Brahma to overlook the law and order condition in the territory. So Manu is a position, or it is the title given to the supervisor. There are many Manus. For example, currently we are in the Manvantaram, that time period ruled by the Manu, where the Manu is Vivaswan. Sakshat Surya Deva, sun, is the supervisor. So he is Vivaswan. Vaivaswata Manvantaram. So we are in the Manvantaram called Vaivaswata. There are many such Manvantaras, Swayambhuva, and so on. So Chakshusha Manvantaram. These are all the Manvantarams at different periods of time. Now we are in the Manvantaram of Vivaswan. So it is called Vaivaswata Manvantaram. Ayodhya Namanagari. This particular city was particularly designed under the personal care and attention of Manu. Manuna Manavendrena, Manava Indrena, the one who is the leader of all the human beings. Manuna Manavendrena Yapuri, that particular city. Nirmita Swayam, he was the one who supervised. So he says, Ayodhya Namanagari Tatra Silloka Vishruta Manuna Manavendrena Ya Puri Nirmita Swayam. Now, this particular city was by the banks of river Sarayu. Tulsidas ji in Sri Ramacharita Manas states, Saraj, Sari, Kali Kalusha Nasavani. In the Kali Yuga, whatever sins the human beings commit, such sins can be washed away by the very waters of Sarayu, Saraj, Sari, Kali Kalush, Nasavani. So he describes the beauty of the river as well. Why should the river be described? Later we will know. Be it in Srimad Ramayanam or Sri Mahabharatam or Srimad Bhagavatam or Vishnu Puranam, time and again the name of the river will be told, whether it is Ganga, Yamuna, Narmada, Kaveri, Tungabhadra, Krishna, Godavari. Why should such names be mentioned? Because in Sanatana Dharma, we have always believed that the waters of the rivers have the ability to wash away our sins. What it literally means is, when we get cleansed in the river waters, our manas will also get its purification. Manas Shuddhi. When Antakarana Shuddhi is done, Manas Shuddhi is done, thought process becomes very clear. You know what to concentrate on, you know what to learn, you also know what to unlearn. When you discard those things that need to be unlearned, when you learn those things that need to be learned, your thought process is clear. Thereby, we mature into Siddhantam learning. Siddhantam develops an interest for us to understand the Jivatma better. Atma Sakshatkaram. Thereby, by using Atma Sakshatkaram, we see the Paramatma inside it. Then it leads to Paramatma Sakshatkaram. Thus, the process of reaching moksham or attaining moksham begins with the purification in the river waters. So the river is described. Now, in such a scenario, when the city is good, the river is pure, the king is also very good. Who is the king? Dasharatha. With such a great kingdom, how was the king? The king was very adept. It is said later by many acharyas that his original name was Dharmaraja. He used to administer based on dharma. But why was it Dasharatha? Dasharatha was an acquired name. In those days, amongst the various skills that a king needs to possess, one of the major skills is to tame the horses, is to ride the chariot. So how can the chariot be driven? The chariot can be driven in a fashion which is straight. How do we take our vehicles? We just go in the straight direction. But in those days, maybe out of exaggeration in the poetic world, it was said that the king should have the ability to go to the upper worlds. Bhuhu, Bhuvaha, Suvaha, Mahaha, Janaha, Tapaha, Satyam. Then he should also have the ability to go downwards. Atala, Vidala, Sutala, Rasa, Atala, Tala, Atala, Maha, Atala, Patala. So you have to go 7 worlds below, 7 worlds above. So for students of mathematics, you will find it interesting. Z-axis minus Z-axis. Well, this is said. There are 8 other directions: north, south, east, west. Northeast, northwest, southwest, southeast. So you have 8 directions. 8 directions in the 2-dimensional plane. Z-axis and minus Z-axis. Which means that the king could essentially drive in all the possible 10 directions. Such a king who had the ability to put his chariot, Ratham, in 10 directions, Dasha, was called Dasharatha. Interestingly, when we go to Ayodhya Kandam, there is a shloka uttered by Sumitra. Ramam Dasharatham Vidhi, Mam Vidhi Janakatmajam, Ayodhyam Atavin Vidhi, Gacha Tata Yatha Sukham, is that shloka. While dealing with that shloka, I shall describe what Dasharatha means there. Here, you can understand that the king who had the ability to ride his chariot in all the possible 10 directions was called Dasharatha. Well, the kingdom is good, the subjects are honest, the king is a very good administrator. What is the niggling worry that he had? That worry will be mentioned in the next episode. Dear Astika reader, I am happy to be authoring a 2-part book on the Ramayana in English. The first part is slated for release in the year 2024. The book aims to recreate and retell the Ramayana of Valmiki, conforming to the ancient commentaries and other allied literature. To receive notifications of the book release, kindly register with www.deshikadaya.org/books. Namaskaram.